Welcome to another episode of last week's Comics Today. I have a much smaller stack of books here than I did last week, and it's, I think, also better, which is surprising. Let's get into it. We're going to start with Under the Influence, issue 4. I can't remember. I can never remember how many issues a series is intended to be. If this is 5 or 6, but things are coming together. Things make more sense now than they've made in previous issues of the series. It still doesn't do anything to help remind me what has happened, who certain characters are, and that, I think, is the major failing of this. However, it still looks great, and if you can remember who people are and what their motivations are, then it will be good, and it will make sense, which is why I think it will read much better as a collection than it does as a series of single issues. But the story is interesting. It's politics, it's social media, it's pretty awesome. The art's great. I was saying it's also about manipulating people and crowds specifically and followings, and it's there is talk of a cult. I don't know. It's weird. Like I said, if you're curious, then definitely grab the trade whenever that comes out. Man Cave does turn everything into collections, so there's no problem on that front. It's just, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. And I ordinarily hate that phrase, but there you have it. Midnite Show, issue 2. I loved issue 1, and this is similarly great. One of the things about issue 1 is there was a huge cast of characters, and I said that about the first issue. So there are... Quickly, there's a Lost movie being shown in a small-town movie theater, so there are movie theater employees, there are people watching the movie, there are some studio industry people as well on hand, because it's a Lost movie, and, you know, there's a certain amount of pomp to that. There are the monsters themselves and town folk, and a lot of people die this issue. Like, that cast gets cut down pretty significantly. One of the things I was talking about in the first issue was how brilliant the page turn reveals are, and in this there's a face getting eaten off at a page turn, and it's stunning, it's spectacular. I loved it. We've got her that's filming everything, so the cast definitely gets narrowed down. It's right here. So this is happening, and then you turn the page. And that's a Necro Wolf, by the way. It's nutty. Necro Wolf. Here we go. Face. Oh my god. So amazing. Look at that. Oh man. Vampire werewolf. And some of the history between the creatures. So there are still 5 creatures. There's Dracula, Frankenstein, Mummy, Werewolf, Necro Wolf. Amazing. And what they call a Dweller, which is the sea creature. But, my god, this is so well done. I think this is 5 issues. I could be wrong. I'm going to be getting all of it, recommending every issue of it, and then very likely getting the trade as well, because it's incredibly good. Canary, issue 1. I think this is one of the Comixology first things by Snyder and Panosian. Snyder was doing a bunch of Comixology first things that I think even from the outset we knew were going to be published in print down the line, and I'm like, I'm not gonna read these things digitally. I'll just wait until they're in print. This one now is, and I've said too about Snyder that I think his best writing is behind him. This one proves me wrong. This one is great. It has a bit of the Rush feel, which I'll actually get to in a minute. So I'll talk more about the Rush, but the Rush is a series. I can't remember who put that out. Boom, perhaps? Vault? Somebody. A couple of years ago. Highly recommended. It's frontier horror. This is very much the same. This guy eats this entire fish. It's gross. And while, like, he winds up... There's another section of that. Like, he just immediately starts talking. It's still in his mouth, and he's talking. Oh, God, it's gross. Oh god. Yes, but Frontier Horror, it's great. Snyder Panosian, I am a fan when he draws his own stuff. I'm a fan of his art. Also out this week was his Red Sonja that he's writing. Somebody else is drawing, and I don't think the art is as good. I flipped through it, and I did not buy that. But that's also out for those interested. This is great. I'm definitely signing up for this. Oh, I forgot about this. Let me show you this too. This is when I knew. So it starts and we get some very nice establishing shots of time and place. Should get us in the mood of everything that's happening. There is this murder of a school teacher, and what all these text boxes are is a marshal. A sheriff explaining to the marshal what has happened, and there's this collection of eggs. He picks one up, and it's described that the eggs were for demonstration purposes. There's a variety. There's like a snake and a turtle and presumably a bird, but he winds up cracking the egg. It's like eating breakfast, right? Slurps it down. He's like, continue the story. Do you even know what creature that was? Nope. And it was this panel, this whole page, so great. But it was this panel. I'm like, I'm buying this series. This is great. I loved it. So yes, a bright spot for Snyder. I highly recommend this as well. Sacrificers, issue 4. I've been enjoying Sacrificers, the first 3 issues. I never got the free comic book day issue. I don't know what was different about that, presumably. Something, hopefully not just material from the first issue, but I've been enjoying this. This one, I think, is even better. It fills in, more stuff happens, I'm going to say, but more stuff makes sense. Things get explained. We've got some of this going on. And one character that has literally been in the background for the whole series takes action at the end of this. I think things are kicking up. They're getting into gear, and I couldn't be happier. This is great. I'm loving it. Art's great. The writing is, as I said, the pace is picking up, but the writing has been great, and faster pace is always welcome. Unnatural Order, issue 1. This is Chris Yost. Chris, right? Pretty sure. Yeah, Christopher. I liked his stuff many years ago. I think earlier in this century. He was writing some X-Men stuff, and I enjoyed it, and so I was curious about this, but it's very... I don't know. It's standard in an era where a lot of people are doing this barbarian type Conan-esque adventuring stuff, and this doesn't stand out in any way. It's mildly horror, but what diminishes this for me is actually the writing. The art's fine, but there are all of these characters interacting. And we've got a couple of stereotypical melee people, and a wizard and an archer, and it's all very familiar. But these people have been together for a while, and yet their conversations are as if they just got introduced to each other. Like, they're giving each other backstory, history, and I'm like, you should have already had this conversation. You should have had this when you met, and you've been adventuring together for an unknown amount of time. Like, why are you talking about this? Clearly, it's just to inform the reader, but there should be... that information should be conveyed in a more creative way. There's something at the end of this that is, I think, supposed to be enticement, and it also should be bracketed, because it should be translated. There's some early stuff here that is bracketed, because it is... these sets of characters are not speaking the same languages, and it's not bracketed, and I'm like, that's also problematic. Again, should have been caught by an editor. The thing about this is, right, so I read this whole issue, and then I get to the end, and this ad here, I'm like, oh, the rush is Russia's a much better series. Just buy this. Buy this. Again, it's much better. I also grabbed, this did not come out this week, this came out unknown weeks ago, but The Hunger and the Dusk issue 3, I'd gotten the first 2 issues and I was curious enough to see, because it was such a small week, I'm like, well, I'll see what else is on the rack, and I grabbed this, and I'm done trying with this series. Some things happen, and I don't ultimately care about any of it, so I'm just calling it done. The art's nice. The story is nothing impressive. However, we also got the Harrower trade. So I think I did videos for this as it was coming out in single issues. This would have been either earlier this year or last year. But the Harrower was a fantastic miniseries. It's a teen slasher. I want to call it a movie, except it's clearly a comic book. But it's that teen slasher-ish story, and it is incredibly good. Highly recommended, so I grabbed this as well. Lastly, I got the Supersons Omnibus. This is the Super Duper edition. I don't remember what additional stuff is in this. I think it's the second 12-issue series is now collected in this as well. I loved the Supersons. I loved Tomasi, and this isn't Gleason, but Jimenez. But the Tomasi Gleason Superman stuff, before Bendis came in, I will always likely be bitter about that his run was cut short because of fucking Bendis, but whatever. Supersons was amazing. I'm glad that I got this so that I can reread it without, again, digging through back issue boxes. This is great. Highly recommended if you didn't read it originally. I would like the Tomasi Gleason, the Superman stuff, except I would like, there's a couple of issues that weren't written by Tomasi that aren't included in the Omnibus buy so far. Whatever, it's a separate problem. I'm glad that I got this. Super glad that I got this. And that is everything that I got this week. So of these, Midnite Show is getting pick of the week. However, Canary and Sacrificers are getting honorable mention as well. Midnite Show is just so well done. It's packed with content, and it's all of it brilliant, and it's gorgeous to look at, and I just love it. And I was trying to get somebody else to start reading this, and maybe I tipped him over, but I guess we'll see. I'll try again if not. This is great. Highly recommended. As always, I get all of my books from a local comic shop. If you don't know where yours is, you can use this URL to find the one closest to you. Thanks for watching. No comics on the floor this week. Woohoo!